What's going on, everyone? I'm your boy Hamza, and you guys might know me as Hammy Takes. Today I'm just go ahead and react to the first round of the NFL draft. The NFL draft happened last week. I'm only going to do the first round because that seems to be the most important draft, the most important round actually for every single team and for every single fan out there. And if I just did all 7 rounds, it would just take forever, and I don't want to do that. I'm going to just react every single pick that happened in the first round, and I'm going to tell you how I like it or not. So with that being said, let's just go in and get going. Obviously the Panthers traded up to get Bryce Young. They traded that number one overall pick to the Bears. Obviously Bears traded down. Panthers got the number one overall pick. And DJ Moore was also part of the trade, and they flipped all those assets to get Bryce Young. My initial reaction was it was pretty much expected. Bryce Young was the best quarterback in this draft class. I didn't really expect anyone else to go there. I mean, there was times where CJ Stroud was probably the number one overall pick, and I kind of have been mocking Stroud to Carolina just because I mean he fits the Frank Reich prototype quarterback. Like he likes the 6 foot over 200 pounds types of quarterbacks. Bryce Young doesn't fit that size criteria, but I was kind of shocked that they wanted him. But then as the odds kept going towards Bryce Young's favors, it just became to the point where it was expected. Bryce Young is a Panther. Um, all I can say is for Carolina, good for them. Um, Obviously, Bryce Young has the potential to be the best quarterback in this draft class, which I think he is as of this moment. Although I do believe he has a much higher floor than everyone else. I don't know about his ceiling. I think the guy that has the number one ceiling is who got picked at number 4. But Bryce Young provides you a really great floor. So I think like Bryce Young is going to immediately be a day one starter. All these quarterbacks are going to be day one starter for me personally. Um, so like Bryce Young, I mean, getting thrown into the Panthers, they have a good receiving core. I mean, it's not the best, but it's still good, and they have a great run game, great offensive line, and their defense is solid. And so, I mean, that's good for a guy like Bryce Young to develop his game. And if he gets better, then I can see the great things happening with Carolina, and they could win this division. But other than that, Carolina, good job with Bryce Young. For the Houston Texans, pick number 2. Um, a lot of people were confused what they were going to do with this pick. Before, like, once the NFL season was over, it was pretty much like the consensus that Houston was going to go quarterback here. Um, whether if it was like a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud, it was either one of those two. And everyone was like, okay, they're going to go take quarterback. They'll take either Young or Stroud, and Houston's going to have their franchise guy. But apparently, 3 weeks, I believe it was around 3 weeks ago, Houston started making these rumors up, and it was just expected that they might go a defensive player at pick number 12. And pick 2 actually. Then at pick number 12, they would go quarterback, and I was actually shocked. And I thought this would be a possibility, but I did not think it was just going to be that expected. Like I gave it like a 10 to 5 to 10% chance of them going a defensive player at number 2. Whereas they could have gone a defensive player at number 12, but 2, it was like pretty much they were going to lock in with quarterback. And then obviously the noise kept on going that, okay, maybe was it Will Anderson, or there was reports that they wanted Tyree Wilson to go at number 2. But at the end of the day, Houston made the right decision. They went with CJ Stroud. And I think like this is the move you need. You're a new coach, new regime, and you just got out of the Deshaun Watson situation. Houston's been a comedy show. It's been a bad place. D'Amico Ryans is here. He is there to change the culture for Houston. And what better way to start the direction of the franchise than to get your franchise quarterback? CJ Stroud is capable of that. And so I do love that Houston went that route to go get CJ Stroud. And so obviously, I mean, good job with Houston. And which goes on to pick number 3, which I did not expect Houston was going to do that. They traded out with Arizona, and Houston, I believe, gave up not just pick 12 to Arizona, but they gave up 34, which was their second rounder, and they gave up their first rounder pick, which is their own first round pick, and I believe they gave up another a fourth rounder. I'm not mistaken. I'll probably have the trade details somewhere here. But regardless of that, Houston did ended up trading up to get the third overall pick, and they selected Will Anderson, and I think that's just a slam dunk for them. I don't think Will Anderson's my number one edge. I had Tyree Wilson as my best edge, and Will Anderson was probably number two or number three. I had a number three. It was him and Nolan Smith. It was like a 2A to 2B thing because him and Nolan Smith, I think they just had a tiebreaker. But Will Anderson, I mean, this was the guy that D'Amico Ryans wanted, and he ended up getting him. And there you go. You got a solid pass rusher in Houston, and great pass rusher. I don't think he has the ceiling that you get with Tyree Wilson and Nolan Smith personally, but Will Anderson's still good enough. And for that with Houston, I mean, D'Amico Ryans wanted him, and he got just that. And all I can say is you can't complain about what Houston did. I think Houston nailed their first 2 round picks. They're one of my winners for the first round. So Houston, good job. Now for the Colts. Fourth overall pick. It was pretty much that they were going to go quarterback here. They weren't going to do anything else. And they got the guy that I wanted and the guy that's my favorite quarterback in this draft class, and Anthony Richardson. And the reason why is just because of his scary potential that Anthony Richardson is going to provide in this league. I mean, the potential, like the ceiling is Cam Newton or like a Josh Allen type of thing. Like that's the scary thing for Richardson. And the one thing that when I was watching Anthony Richardson, footwork was his issue. And I think if he gets that cleaned up, he is going to be scary in this league. So shout out to Anthony Richardson. The Colts were the perfect position if it was not Carolina. You had Shane Steichen, who not just developed Jalen Hurts, he also coached Justin Herbert, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or was it their quarterbacks coach? But either way, Shane Steichen helped and developed Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback in this league. Like he elevated Jalen Hurts. Hurts got better as it kept going on. Imagine what he's going to do with Anthony Richardson. It's going to be Jalen Hurts, but on steroids. It's Josh Allen. Like, that's what we're giving him. The Josh Allen, Cam Newton type. And Anthony Richardson on a offense like the Colts that are heavy on the run. It's a rushing attack type of offense. Richardson's going to strive in that. Like, I think he will do well in that offense. And so, like, I think for the Colts, they did a great job with it. Go and get your guy for the future. You got Gardner Minshew. I do probably think they might start Minshew, but there are reports saying that they want to start Richardson right away. But Gardner Minshew knows the offense. And I think Richardson just needs a little bit of cleanup in his game. And if he does, oh boy, he is going to be scary. So now going to pick number 5. This was a pick that I was just so confused. But as I kept looking at it again and again, I understood why Seattle did this. They ended up taking Devon Witherspoon, and I did not have Witherspoon going that high. I believe Witherspoon, I was taking him in the mid first round. That's where I was mocking him, probably to a team like the Cardinals if they traded down, or because I had the Cardinals trade down a couple times. Or a team like Washington or Pittsburgh, I had Witherspoon going there, but at number 5, I kind of was shocked that he went that high. I thought Jalen Carter was locked in for pick number 5 for Seattle, but I think the reason why they did not go Carter, because obviously Pete Carroll is starting to get this whole we want to establish a great culture thing, and I guess Carter didn't fit that. Maybe he didn't interview well. I know Pete Carroll's the type of coach that he's going to take a chance on a guy, um, and if it works, then there you go. Because Pete Carroll's known for that, but he didn't take Jalen Carter, and that kind of was shocking. That if Pete Carroll didn't take you, then something was up with Jalen Carter. Maybe he didn't interview well. Who knows? But regardless, Seattle ended up going with Devon Witherspoon, and I thought this was a reach. Excuse me, because I thought they were going to go with Christian Gonzalez. I thought Gonzalez was the number 1 corner in this draft class, but Witherspoon is the prototypical type corner that Pete Carroll loves. He loves the corners that are aggressive, with grit, and Devon Witherspoon shows that. I mean, he has a tenacious type of play style, like as a corner, and he's such a great run defending corner too. So like it makes sense for the type of players Pete Carroll loves on defense. So I'm not gonna blame Seattle much on that, but rather felt like they could have gone defensive line. And even if they did not want to go Jalen Carter, their D line needed help. Tyree Wilson would have been a good fit there. But obviously Seattle didn't do it. They went with corner, and then again, Devon Witherspoon makes their secondary better now. So other than that, I really can't complain what Seattle did. I think they did a good job with getting to Witherspoon here. So with that, I mean, um, bit of a reach, but honestly, if it's I understand why Pete Carroll did this. I thought they could have gone him at 20, but they were probably scared some other team was going to take him. So I think they went with 5 and they said, you know what, let's go ahead and take Devon Witherspoon and we'll make him our corner. So with that, a little bit shaky still, but I see the vision why Seattle did it. So at pick number 6, this was originally the Detroit Lions pick. They ended up trading down to Arizona. Arizona traded back up. And I think the beauty of what Arizona did is that I don't Arizona traded the Texans pick for next year's I believe it was the Texans pick, first round pick next year that they traded up to Detroit, I believe. They didn't trade one of their owns. And I think they gave up an I can't remember the trade composition. Compensation. I'll probably add it here on the screen. Um, but I do know that Houston that they would trade up to get Paris Johnson. And while they did that, I don't think they used one of their own first round picks. So I believe it was. So Arizona, I mean, this is a home run. I mean, this is a guy that Kyler Murray wanted in his offensive line. He wanted Paris Johnson. He was lobbying to get Paris Johnson. And for a franchise that's under a new regime, brand new general manager, brand new coaching staff, you're no longer in the Steve Keim, Cliff Kingsbury era. You're in now the Monty Ossenford, I think that's as his name. I can't remember. And then you also have the Jonathan Gannon. But for them to listen to Kyler Murray and get the guy that Kyler wanted. Now, I do say that it's not always a good idea to get the players you want, always. But at least a pick like this for a franchise that's in total rebuild and you're getting the guy with the best ceiling of all these tackle classes with Paris Johnson there, I mean, I think it's great. And also you're giving Kyler Murray confidence that you're actually serious to committing to him. So good job by Arizona trading back up to get Paris Johnson Jr. I think this is a good pick for them. Excuse me. Now for the Raiders, they got Tyree Wilson. Um, really, I thought the Raiders were going to do something stupid, like the Raiders always do. They take a wild pick in the first round, but they didn't do it this year. They ended up going Tyree Wilson, and love it, love every bit of it. I love what Las Vegas did. Chandler Jones is not good anymore, and you're pairing him up with Max Crosby. Tyree Wilson is my edge one. Um, and I felt like literally this is the best team that he can go with. There are some things that Wilson kind of needs fixing on. Raiders is a perfect spot when you have the edge duo of Chandler Jones and Max Crosby, and Chandler Jones not being that good anymore. While Max Crosby is still a top 5 edge rusher in football right now, like that is a great spot to learn. And him going there to Las Vegas, learning from those two, it's going to be great for Tyree Wilson. He's going to be a problem in this league. But other than that, like I really can't say much about that pick. I kind of wanted the Falcons to get him, if I'm being honest. But I mean, then again, the Raiders got him. I think this is a home run pick for them. They didn't do anything stupid like they always do. Raiders actually made a right pick for once in the first round. So for that, good job by the Raiders. Now for the Atlanta Falcons, they ended up going Bijan Robinson. I did not expect that. I was hoping Bijan would fall in the first round. And for a team like the Chargers, who need a massive upgrade at running back, because Austin Eckler is not a good running back. He is just a receiving back who only is going to play well in the third down situation. Now your change of pace back, he's a third down back. That is Austin Eckler. And the Chargers desperately needed to improve their run game. But so that's where I wanted Bijan to go. I wanted him to be a Charger. That's something I've been praying, because I feel like Bijan on that Chargers O-line and that Chargers offense, with him having Justin Herbert as his quarterback, I feel like that would have been ridiculous. But obviously it didn't happen. When he got picked by the Falcons, I was a little confused why the Falcons did that. But as I go and look at more into this pick, I understand it why. I would rather prefer the Falcons go Christian Gonzalez here. You pair him up with AJ Terrell, and you now have probably the scariest secondary in the league. I mean, that would have been awesome for Atlanta. Um, but I mean, then again, the Bijan Robinson pick, I mean, if there was any running back in this draft that was worth going in the first round, Bijan was the guy. He is a generational prospect. You can't pass that up. Um, but it's good that Atlanta took him, because that means Philly didn't have to take him. And it would have been scary if Philly took Bijan Robinson. But I do love Atlanta, the situation that Bijan's going to go into. And that is because they're wanting to see how Desmond Ridder is as a quarterback. So they wanted to get Ridder all the weapons that they can. And the Falcons have a decent offensive line. It's not the best, but it's decent. And I think they can get better from there. But but what I like about Bijan going there is Arthur Smith's run game, and he's going to thrive. And not even mentioning, they have Tyler Algier, and I think he's good. And so when you have Tyler Algier that's done pretty good on the Falcons offense, and now you're getting Bijan to add in that backfield, it's going to be great for Bijan Robinson long term. He's not going to get used much as he would for any other team. You already got a running back that you can alternate with, and you could have him split times with Bijan, and I think he'll be incredible in Tyler Algier, and you're saving Bijan long term. And I think that as more as I look into it, that's good for Atlanta. It's not like the Giants, where they picked Saquon Barkley second overall, and they just used Saquon, and then Saquon started suffering injuries after injuries until he's back to the Saquon that we all know of. Except for Bijan, he's going into a situation where the offensive line's better than what the Giants were, and that he's got better running backs as his cast compared to what Saquon had to deal with. So with that, I mean, good job by Atlanta. You got a generational running back. And it just pretty much depends if Desmond Ridder pans out. And if he does, I mean, the Falcons could be a good team next season. But for that, I mean, Bijan, Falcons, best situation from him other than the Chargers for me personally. But I'm glad that I'm glad Bijan's a Falcon. I mean, that's at least a good thing. Atlanta can have some nice things to cheer for. And for the situation that Bijan's going to be in, I think it's great for him long term. Now, with the 9th overall pick, the Chicago Bears originally had that pick. They traded down with Philly. They ended up getting pick number 10, and they got a 4th rounder this year. And now with the Eagles having the 9th overall pick, it was pretty much set in stone. Jalen Carter was their pick. And I was shocked because, I mean, Jalen Carter was falling, but it was pretty evident that once Seattle didn't take Jalen Carter, Carter was going to fall low, and not other teams were going to get him. And the Bears, and I know people are going to hate the Chicago Bears because they let the Eagles take Jalen Carter, and they wanted the Bears to take him so that they would prevent Philly from getting even more scarier. But I feel like now the league is going to hate the Chicago Bears only because they let Philly get Jalen Carter. But I want people to realize was that Chicago's general manager, Ryan Poles, explicitly said he does not want Jalen Carter. He did not want Carter on his team. The guy that they took at number 10, Darnell Wright, that was the guy that Poles was focused on. And that was the guy Poles wanted to make with his first pick. Whether if it was at pick 9 or whether they had to trade down, Darnell Wright was the guy they wanted. So the Bears were like, okay, we're not taking Carter. whoever's going to give us the best offer, you go ahead and we'll take it. And the Bears took the Eagles offer, which I mean, all they had to do was move down one spot, and they let the Eagles get Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter to the Eagles, to a defensive line that's already scary when you already have Jordan Davis. Fletcher Cox is potentially on his way towards retirement. You got Brandon Graham too. Well, now you got the guy that might be the next Aaron Donald in Jalen Carter. He is scary. He is the best player in this draft. And now you're reuniting him with Jordan Davis and Kobe Dean. That is scary. And Philly's defensive line, oh boy, they're going to terrorize the NFC for the next decade or so. Like, it is that scary in Philly. Oh my gosh. Jalen Carter, wow. And this is a team that was so close to winning the Super Bowl. And now you get Jalen Carter in your defensive line, which is one thing that is great. Philly's defensive line, like, they sucked against the run. Well, whether if they have Jordan Davis or not, Jalen Carter is stopping the run. So you got a generational prospect at D tackle, a blue chip in Jalen Carter, who is probably going to be the next Aaron Donald. Look out. It is going to be scary in Philadelphia. But regardless, Eagles, home run pick. They nailed it with Carter. Investing in the future of your trenches, that is always a good thing, especially for when you have a guy like Jalen Hurts. And if you potentially plan to keep him long term, you keep on with the trenches. The number one way you're going to have a good football team is if your trenches are good. And the fact that Philly is investing in that, love it. Home run pick for Philadelphia. Now to pick number 10, the Chicago Bears got their right tackle in Darnell Wright. Love it. He was one of my favorite offensive tackle prospects. I think he was my OT 2 or 3. I think he was my second ranked offensive tackle. Or my third ranked. I can't remember which it was, but I do remember Paris Johnson was my number 1. Just because of the upside in the ceiling that he has. But Darnell Wright fits what Chicago needed, and great for Chicago. That's the guy they wanted. And Darnell Wright is a really good right tackle, and I'm very glad to see that Justin Fields gets some protection. I think Braxton Jones, if I'm not mistaken, was their right tackle? Or no, I think it was their left tackle. I can't remember who it was, but regardless, Darnell Wright's starting. So with that, Bears got their future right tackle. Darnell Wright was the guy. Good job by Chicago. Moving on to pick number 11, Peter Skoronski went to Tennessee. It's a good pick. I mean, Tennessee's offensive line's not good. And I know people are going to hate that. Why does Skoronski had to go to Tennessee? Well, that's just because of what I just mentioned. Tennessee's offensive line, like all around, it's not a good offensive line. And Skoronski, and it's like, okay, well, but Skoronski's going to be a good tackle, but what about him transitioning to guard? Well, there you go. That's why Tennessee ended up taking Peter Skoronski, was because of his versatility. Skoronski is a Pro Bowler tackle, but if he transitions to guard, he's going to be an all-pro guard. So whatever Tennessee wants Skoronski to do, Skoronski's going to go ahead and it's like whether if they want Skoronski to go guard or if they want to go tackle, they're getting a really good guy on that offensive line, and he offers that versatility. So, I mean, with that right there, I mean, Tennessee, great spot for Skoronski. Love that pick. And really, it's just a matter of where do they want him going. So, Skoronski, love that pick. Pick 12. I hated this pick for Detroit. The Detroit Lions, I thought that this team was turning it around. They were doing good things. And this is somebody that's a fan of the Green Bay Packers. I thought the Lions were turning it around, and I thought they were heading in the right direction. And they still kind of are, but I did not like what they did in the first round. And I didn't like with the other pick, which I'm going to get into. But this pick right here, Jahmyr Gibbs, nobody saw this coming. Jahmyr Gibbs was a late first rounder, but he was going to be probably picked in the second round. This was such a reach. This is a running back position. If this was Bijan Robinson and he was still there and the Lions took Bijan Robinson, I'm not blaming Detroit for picking him at 12. But this is Jahmyr Gibbs. He is not a generational prospect like Bijan is. Jahmyr Gibbs is a running back that I think is probably like Alvin Kamara ish. I think he's got that ceiling, but I mean, at pick 12, and yes, I know people are gonna say, well, DeAndre Swift's no longer on the Eagles. Um, but you just signed David Montgomery to a 3-year, $18 million deal. He's making $6 million a year. You're giving David Montgomery running back money. And you already had DeAndre Swift, who I'm not a big fan of. And as a Georgia fan, I don't think DeAndre Swift is that good. But Jahmyr Gibbs at pick 12, and this was a team that needed secondary help. Christian Gonzalez was still on the board. That would have been a much better pick. And the Detroit Lions decided not to do that. I don't get why this team wasted on a running back. Even if DeAndre Swift's no longer on the team, there was no way you take the least valuable position that early, unless if it was Bijan Robinson. But Jahmyr Gibbs, this is the least valuable position in the NFL, and you took him with the first pick. No excuse. You could have gotten Jahmyr in the second round. There is no way Jahmyr Gibbs was going in the first round. This was such a reach. I did not like this for Detroit. I don't care if they're getting a legit playmaker, but he plays the running back position. And I don't even think Jahmyr Gibbs is starting right away. If you're going to draft a guy this high, you might as well start him. I don't even think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to start. I think it's Montgomery that's going to take the early downs. So, like, all around, this is just a bad pick by Detroit. Yes, Gibbs is a great player, but taking him that early, that's just showing irresponsibility with your draft assets. It made legitimately no sense. I don't know what to say with Detroit. So, I mean, Lions, I can't defend you with this pick. The Jahmyr Gibbs pick was just awful. I mean, it was one of the worst picks in the first round. I don't understand why the Lions did it. But regardless, Jahmyr Gibbs at pick 12, that's what they did. And there you go. Now for pick number 13, my Green Bay Packers. They were in an interesting spot. They could have gone corner with Christian Gonzalez unavailable. Brian Branch was a guy I wanted in Green Bay. There was also Jackson Njigba. They could have also got one of the premier tackles. Or the Packers could have gone, somewhere in the edge. And they decided to go edge, which was not one of the flashiest picks, but this is one of my favorite prospects in this year's draft class. Lucas Van Ness is a Green Bay Packer. And I'm going to be the first one to tell you this. I love this pick. The Packers needed edge help. Outside of Rashawn Gary, it's not good. And this team could not generate pressures last year. And Van Ness is a guy that can do that. And not even mentioning, I love his ceiling. I think he could be one of the best edges. And he could potentially be the best edge in this draft class if Van Ness gets a little bit of polishing in this game, because the strength this man has is insane. There's a reason why this man is called Hercules. That's his nickname. Lucas Van Ness is incredible. I love him. And the fact that he's in Green Bay alongside with Rashawn Gary, who I know is going to mentor him and help him fix his game up, it's going to be awesome for Green Bay. I love this edge duo. So I think this is a good pick. I know Packers fans have been upset about this because it's not the flashiest pick. It's the boring pick, but Van Ness is a really good player. And I get it. Like, they wanted JSN. I also kind of wanted to get JSN on this team, but because considering that the Packers has spent 5 consecutive draft picks, first round picks on defense, or was it 4? So Van Ness being there, understand it, but I love the player. He fills a need right away for Green Bay. And listen, you're setting up Jordan Love, who's potentially going to be the future of this franchise. You want your quarterback to develop, you better give him a really good defense. And getting Van Ness there fills a significant need. Love this pick for Green Bay. I think they did well here. The Pittsburgh Steelers traded up with the New England Patriots to take Broderick Jones. They were at pick 17. I think they gave that up, and I believe they gave up a 4th rounder alongside, but they ended up taking Broderick Jones. And Pittsburgh, they needed to do that. They have the worst tackles in all of football. Broderick Jones immediately fills a need right away. I do see the upside with Broderick Jones. He is a great run blocker. He probably needs a little bit more refinement in the passing game. But for Pittsburgh, I mean, you have Najee Harris on that backfield. You need to you got yourself a tackle that is so good on the run. Broderick Jones fits. And really, they just needed tackles. Their tackles suck. So I mean, Broderick Jones, great pick by Pittsburgh. Love that a lot. And all I gotta say is just protect Najee Harris. The New York Jets. This was the worst pick in the first round. As much as I trashed the Lions for taking Jahmyr Gibbs, the Jets taking Will McDonald was the absolute worst pick in the draft. You took a guy that was supposed to go mid in the second round. He was not even the best edges in this class. And I know Jets fans are telling me that McDonald feels like an immediate need because they play like this Y9 defensive scheme, but it does not matter. This was such a reach. Will McDonald was mocked to go in the second round. There was no way this dude was going to go that early. I did not understand why the Jets did this, but Anton Harrison was still on the board. I wanted the Jets to go him because their right tackle is Max Mitchell, and he's not good. And you have Aaron Rodgers, who is 39 years old, who is still playing like a top 5 quarterback in this National Football League. You needed to protect him. You were a tackle away from having a really good offensive line. You blew it up and you got a situational edge. And this is a team that took Jermaine Johnson last year. Not only did they take Jermaine Johnson, they traded up to get him. I don't understand this. I mean, Will McDonald, I don't understand what the need is for Will McDonald. Maybe Robert Saleh knows something that we don't, but regardless, at pick 15, this is such a reach. McDonald was clear cut going to go in the second round. I did not like this pick at all. Anton Harrison should have been the guy. I mean, regardless, the Jets had the worst pick in the first round. The Washington Commanders took Emmanuel Forbes. So I believe my boy Miller Football, he was talking about the teams that Forbes fits in, and it's one of those Fangio type defenses, and Washington was one of them. So that's good, but man, Christian Gonzalez was right there. You could have had the best corner in the draft, but you went with Forbes. I did not like this pick at all. Yes, he fits the scheme, and it's a good scheme fit, but I mean, still not a good pick. Gonzalez is right there. You could have benefited from Christian Gonzalez right there if I was Washington. But regardless, I mean, they got a solid corner. I would just rather prefer Christian Gonzalez. I mean, Forbes, I believe, was like my corner 5 in this draft class. And that's only because there's only certain teams that he fits on. But what Forbes provides, I think it's awesome. But over Christian Gonzalez, that's just not the right pick for Washington. I can't defend Washington with that. As much as you want to say that it's a great scheme fit, which it is, you got the best corner in football in this draft class, actually, sitting right there. You did not take him. And which leads me to pick 17 because we let Bill Belichick get Christian Gonzalez. And the Patriots are one of my winners of the first round simply because of what Bill Belichick did here. He was at pick 14. He said, you know what? Christian Gonzalez is right there, but I'm going to try and trade down while gaining more draft capital. And I'm going to see if I can still get Christian Gonzalez. And that's exactly what Belichick did. He got the best corner in this draft class. And I mean, there's just nothing else to say. Home run pick for New England. Belichick masterclass. I mean, you can pretty much lock Christian Gonzalez to probably be a top 5 corner after this season. And he's probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year simply because the best corner in this draft is going to probably the best coach in football and the greatest coach of all time in Bill Belichick. What a masterclass by Big Belichick. Nothing to say here. He got the best corner in this draft class. That right there just gave the Patriots a plus grade in the first round. Now at pick 18, the Detroit Lions also reached. They took Jack Campbell. And the reason why I say it's a reach, because Jack Campbell is a great player. He is the best linebacker by a wide margin. And this is such a horrible linebacker class, but Jack Campbell was the only linebacker that was worth going in the first round, but not this early. You see, the Detroit Lions wasted uh their 2 picks in the first round. And it's not just any 2 picks in the first round. Those 2 first round picks were in the top 20. And they took the 2 least valuable positions on that roster. Now, I understand with Jack Campbell because that is a need for Detroit. They needed a linebacker, and Jack Campbell fits the whole Dan Campbell bite your kneecaps type of moniker. But at pick 18, that was a reach. If I was Detroit, I would have traded down, at least with a team that was wanting to trade up. And then Jack Campbell, if you took him while getting more draft picks, would have made a lot of sense. But at pick 18, it was a reach. But I can understand Detroit's perspective only because there was a few teams like that were picking late in the first round, probably could have picked Jack Campbell. And I think the one team that could have gotten him was probably Buffalo. If Detroit did not take Jack Campbell, Buffalo probably would have been the team to get him because they lost Tremaine Edmonds. Campbell's the perfect replacement for what Edmonds does. And seeing that, so I can understand Detroit's perspective on that, but Detroit didn't even bother trying to trade down. They probably should have traded down to a team like Minnesota, maybe, or the Giants, maybe, um, uh, or just anyone in general. But the fact that they decided to go Jack Campbell 18, that this is still a reach. He could have gone in the second round pretty early, but I rather prefer the Lions for to trade it down if they wanted Campbell so badly. Because taking him at 18, that's just bad value for your assets. And I know linebackers are very important to a defense, but it is one of the least valuable positions in football. I think defenses nowadays, they like defensive line and especially edge rushers and corners. Linebackers are really not so much, but regardless, great player for Detroit, fills a great need, but not at pick 18. That's not ideal for Detroit. Moving on to pick 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were a team that I had difficulty mocking because that team could have gone either direction. But they decided to invest in their trenches. They took Kalijah Kancey, great pick for Tampa Bay. Their D line really needs to get younger. Kancey fills a big hole and he fits in right away. And this is just a team that really needs anything at this point. And Kalijah Kancey is a starter and he fits that. So I mean, with Tampa, you can't complain. Kalijah Kancey was there. Great pick for Tampa. Pick number 20 was where the first wide receiver off the board of this draft class went off the board, and it is the best one in this entire draft class. Jaxon Smith-Njigba went to Seattle. I did not expect that, but this is a great fit for Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Seattle has DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett that work on the outside. You had Tyler Lockett as your Z. DK Metcalf was your X. And you got Jaxon Smith-Njigba. That dude can work in the slot. He is a slot machine. I mean, he is unstoppable. He is unreal working in the slot. And looking at Seattle's wide receiving core, they had D. Eskridge as their wide receiver 3. Not Marquise Goodwin, because Marquise Goodwin's no longer on Seattle, I believe. They had D. Eskridge. Jaxon Smith-Njigba was a really good pick for Seattle. And now you're giving Geno Smith an extra weapon to work with, a guy to work in the slot. I think Jaxon Smith-Njigba is going to kill it. While you have DK and Lockett work on the outside, you got Jaxon Smith-Njigba to work on the slot. I mean, this is just awesome. And this immediately makes one of the best trios in all of football. So well done, Seattle, with number 20. Like this pick a lot. Moving on to 21. Now, before I say, ESPN does say it's the 22nd overall, but this is technically 21. That's because the Dolphins forfeited their first round pick due to tampering for Tom Brady. But at pick 21, the Chargers went with Quentin Johnston. This was a team that I mod Zay Flowers to go to, but Johnston was my second option. And I don't hate this. I like this for Quentin Johnston. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, Quentin Johnston's a big wide receiver. Why do they need a big wide receiver? They already had Mike Williams out there. Quentin Johnson and Mike Williams are different types of wide receivers. Apparently, Quentin Johnson just does not like to use his body. So when you got a wide receiver that's good and he's quick, Chargers needed that. They needed speed. They needed a guy that Justin Fields can throw downfield with. Johnson's a great guy for that. He's quick. And then Mike Williams can do what Mike Williams does best, and that is just continue to make contested jump ball type catches. Quinn Johnson is a field stretcher, and he's big too. So, I mean, the Chargers GM has a thing for wanting big wide receivers, but Johnson's fast, and he's not a bit body wide receiver like Mike Williams is. He doesn't like to use his body, but regardless, great pick for Los Angeles. Quinn Johnson, you got a wide receiver with speed, and I do like this a lot. Pick 22, the Baltimore Ravens went with Zay Flowers. Home run pick. Love this pick a lot. A team that gave Lamar an extension hours before draft night, and then you're committing to Lamar by giving him an extra weapon. Exactly what Baltimore needed to do. Love this pick a lot. They did sign Odell Beckham Jr. and they also had Rashad Bateman, but both of these guys have an injury history. And outside of that, Devin Duvernay is solid. I don't think he's great, but he's solid. And they also had Nelson Aguilar, and Nelson Aguilar is not good at football. I'm sorry, but he's not a good wide receiver. Zay Flowers is immediately their 3, and Zay Flowers is explosive after the catch. I mean, this is going to open Baltimore's offense a lot, and you already have Mark Andrews there, and Isaiah Likely is a pretty good tight end. I like Isaiah Likely a lot. And so, like, Lamar getting weapons, this Ravens offense can cook. Ravens can cook on with that offense. And if Odell and Bateman stay healthy, it's going to be one of the best offenses in football. And you can pretty much expect the Ravens to pretty much make the playoffs now because their defense is elite. And now you're getting a playmaker in Zay Flowers and you're committing to Lamar Jackson. Home run pick for Baltimore. Love this a lot. At pick 23, the Minnesota Vikings went Jordan Addison. Now, I was kind of wanting to joke with my favorite Vikings fan, the Geek Slays. Because I was like, oh, this is probably where Will Levis is going to go. But reality, Joey Porter Jr. was falling so low. And I thought this was the perfect opportunity for Minnesota to take him. Brian Flores was going to cook with Porter, and Minnesota would get a lockdown corner for the first time in a while. I believe Xavier Rhodes was the last time Minnesota had a true number 1 corner, and he was a true lockdown. They haven't had one since. But Jordan Addison's a great pick. You lost Adam Thielen. Wide receivers were Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, and I believe Jalen Reagor was probably their number 3 option. And they also had speedy Jalen Naylor. So yeah, they needed a wide receiver too. And Jordan Addison is the perfect complement to Justin Jefferson. You want JJ working downfield and like he'll do it. Jordan Addison is going to work on the short area routes. He's going to work in the slot. I think he's going to be great there. Perfect fit. Love it for Minnesota. He can do the Adam Thielen role probably a lot better because he's younger. But regardless, Jordan Addison, Minnesota. I hate that I got to go against him twice a year, but regardless, for Minnesota, great pick. Love this for Jordan Addison, and I think he's going to be great in Minnesota. And it's just another weapon for Kirk Cousins. But regardless, Addison in Minnesota, great. Love it a lot. Moving on to 24, the New York Giants traded with the Jacksonville Jaguars and took Deonte Banks. Love it. Love this pick. I am a big Deonte Banks fan. Deonte Banks immediately fills a role for what New York wants to do. And I think he's the perfect corner for what Wink Martindale likes to do with his defense. Adoree Jackson was their number 1 corner. After that, I could not name any single other corner. They needed corner help. I know people are like, oh, they could have gone offensive line. They could have gone wide receiver here. Corner was a huge need for the Giants. Their secondary was not good. I know they got Xavier McKinney on that backfield, but Adoree Jackson is their number 1 corner. and I think that Jackson's probably best as a corner two. Banks has the opportunity to be a legit corner one. And I love that fit. Love it going to New York. Giants nailed it with their pick, in my opinion. I think they did a great job with it. Deontay Banks, I think, is going to be great. Now, going on to pick 25, the Jaguars decided to again trade down, let the Bills trade up. This is a pick I really hated. I did not like this pick at all. And this was one of the picks that is convincing me to say that Buffalo did not do well in this draft, but I hated this pick. This pick, I genuinely did not understand why Buffalo did this. They went with Dalton Kincaid, trading up with Jacksonville. I know the Cowboys were probably going to go tight end here, but I did not understand why they needed Dalton Kincaid. O'Cyrus Torrence was right there. Their right guard is Ryan Bass. Now, obviously, the Bills ended up getting O'Cyrus Torrence anyway in the second round, and that pick to me is kind of saving from Buffalo from having a terrible draft class. But regardless, I did not like this pick. You could have gone trenches because their trenches need some serious work. Torrance would have been a great pick there, even though they got him in the second round, which doesn't matter. But Mozzie Smith was there, who the Cowboys ended up taking. They could have went with Keanu Benton if they wanted to. I think he fills a hole right away for Buffalo. But, I did not understand this. I mean, Buffalo going Dalton Kincaid, I guess the receivers went off the board and they needed another pass catcher, but they have Dawson Knox. Dalton Kincaid is a great pass catcher. He's probably the best pass catching tight end in this draft class. But the dude cannot block. You have Dawson Knox. He's a great receiving tight end, even though he's a bit inconsistent. He's not a good blocker. You're literally getting Dawson Knox 2.0, but this time it's just a cheaper version, and you just paid Dawson Knox. I don't get this for Buffalo. This is not a good pick. And there's reports coming out that they're going to potentially use Kincaid as an H-back, and that makes me hate that pick even more, considering that they already have a fullback in Reggie Gilliam. I don't get this Dalton Kincaid pick. It makes legitimately no sense to me. Unless if you wanted to be a big wide receiver, then like, yeah, sure. But regardless, you already have Dawson Knox. And I'm not the biggest Dawson Knox fan, but this is still a bad pick. Like, I don't get this for Buffalo. I mean, that's one of the worst picks to me in the first round. I did not like the Dalton Kincaid pick. I mean, like, you could have went with the offensive line, even though they got Cyrus Torrence in the first round, but help out Josh Allen a bit. Protect him. And really, if you're Buffalo, you could have went with defensive line. Their D line's not good, but they went the worst possible option they had. And I don't understand this at all. Moving on to pick 26, the Dallas Cowboys did not go with tight end. They went with Mozzie Smith. And Cowboys fans are so upset about this pick, which I legitimately do not understand why. Mozzie Smith is a great fit. They needed help on that defensive line. And Mozzie Smith is probably my number one D tackle outside of Jalen Carter. Fills a need right away. You're making Micah Parsons' job a lot easier getting to the quarterback. I don't get this. Why are Cowboys fans upset? I know they kind of wanted to go running back here, but there was not another running back worth taking here. Michael Mayer was understandable. You could have went with him, but Mozzie Smith, like, he fills a need and he's going to immediately make an impact to the Cowboys defense. That's already a top 3 unit in the NFL. But Cowboys fans, I don't understand why they're complaining about this. Mozzie Smith is great. He's awesome. And I think he's going to do good things for Dallas. And even Micah Parsons, if you were watching him, was hyped at the Mozzie Smith pick. But regardless, with Dallas, I don't understand why you guys hated this. But Mozzie Smith was a great pick. Good job by Dallas. I think they did a good job with this. So now the Jacksonville Jaguars went with Anton Harrison. That was the pick I was expecting. And love this a lot. They do have Walker Little. I'm not familiar sure with Walker Little. I don't. He hasn't had much reps, even though there was an Urban Meyer pick. But Cam Robinson, I don't think he's that good. I think he's decent, but Cam Robinson's suspended. You need to get a tackle, and you got to protect Trevor Lawrence. This is where Harrison went, and really, I just can't complain. I think he's my tackle 3, tackle 2, tackle 3. It was him and Darnell Wright that were alternating for that spot. But Anton Harrison, I mean, fills a hold immediately for Jacksonville. He's going to start right away. He's going to be a great tackle. So, regardless, so Jacksonville nailed it with this one. The Cincinnati Bengals just went the most Bengal type of pick. And I did not like this for Cincy. They went with Myles Murphy. And I am so glad that I am free from the Myles Murphy allegations because I was scared Green Bay was going to get him. But he went to Cincinnati, and Bengals fans, I am sorry. You better hope you get 2021 Myles Murphy, because if you get this recent version of Myles Murphy, this is a horrible pick. Such a horrible pick. Project, but if you're going to get 2022 Myles Murphy, I don't know what to do here. This is just not a good pick by Cincy at all whatsoever. Not the biggest Myles Murphy fan. Can he develop his game? Sure. As I mentioned, you better hope you get 2021 Myles Murphy, because this might be the worst pick in the first round if he doesn't, outside of the Will McDonald and the 2 picks the Lions made. Myles Murphy, not good. Decent, but he's not good. And you better just bank that you get 2021 Myles Murphy. At pick 29, the Saints went with Brian Bresee. Now, Saints fans were so mad at that pick. And I'm not the biggest Brian Bresee guy either. I think there's upside with Brian Bresee because the athleticism is there, and I think he can be good. But I just didn't feel comfortable with him. But I want Saints fans to remember this. They were mad that they didn't get Nolan Smith. I'm not sure if Nolan Smith fits what New Orleans was running. There is some Saints fans that are talking about, and I actually kind of do agree with some Saints fans out there. Nolan Smith might not fit their defense. Bresee, you're getting a D tackle, and the athletic upside's there, and I think he can be great. And I'm also hoping Brian Bresee does well, because this dude went through a lot growing up. So, other than that, this is not a bad pick as people are making it to be. So, really, I think the Saints did good here. I mean, Brian Bresee, they didn't get Myles Murphy, which is awesome. But regardless, they got a good tackle. They got a good D tackle, and I think he'll be great. If he pans the athleticism pans out, I think he'll be a great tackle. So good job by New Orleans. I do like that you're taking the gamble on Brian Bresee. Not bad at all. The Philadelphia Eagles completely won this entire draft for me personally, but it's not just because of what they did here, but it was also all the picks they made in the later rounds. They took Nolan Smith. You're pairing him up with Jalen Carter, and now you're going to reunite him with not just Jalen Carter, but Jordan Davis and Kobe Dean. The 2021 Georgia Bulldogs defense, which might be the best defense in all of college football history. You got 4 of the best players, all in Philadelphia. Home run for Howie Roseman. How did the league allow this to happen? That's my question. But man, Nolan Smith's going to be incredible in Philadelphia. And the guy, Hassan Reddick, perfect guy to learn from. Nolan Smith's going to be incredible. Philly just investing into the future of this team. I mean, a home run first round for Howie Roseman. Awesome pick. So Nolan Smith, I mean, Eagles are going to be dangerous. They're going to terrorize this conference. They're going to terrorize their division. But honestly, Philadelphia, Nolan Smith, great acquisition, great pickup. I really can't say much either. I just love Nolan Smith, and I'm a Nolan Smith enjoyer. And with the final pick of the first round, the Kansas City Chiefs select Felix Anudike-Uzomah. I think he's gonna fit in Kansas City. I think he's a great Frank Clark replacement. I think he's gonna fit right well with what Steve Spagnuolo likes to do with his defense. So I mean, I mean it's a great pick. Good pick by Kansas City. They could have traded back if they wanted to, but I mean, getting Felix Anudike-Uzomah, I feel like Brian Branch would have been incredible in Kansas City. And in speaking of Brian Branch, the fact that this man did not get taken in the first round, that was just mind-boggling. And I thought Philly was going to get him at pick 30, and that would have been the perfect CJ Gardner-Johnson replacement. But they still got Nolan Smith. You can't complain here. It was either Branch or Nolan Smith, and they got Nolan Smith. Great pick either way for Philly. But Brian Branch not going there. Not going in the first round. That was insane. And I thought the Chiefs were going to land Brian Branch. Because yes, you have Justin Reed and you do have Juan Thornhill, but Branch would have been incredible. And this is a Chiefs team, which their draft class from last year balled out. Trent McDuffie balled out. But having Branch there, but having Branch in that secondary, that would have been awesome. That would have been awesome. But regardless, they did go with Felix Anudike-Uzomah. They needed to replace Frank Clark. Perfect guy to do it. Like this pick for Kansas City. So with that, I mean, they did a good job with what they did in the first round. So with that right there, I just pretty much explained my thoughts and views on the first round of the NFL draft. With that being said, hope you guys are having a great day, and go ahead and like and subscribe. If you're stopping by for the channel for the first time, go ahead and like and subscribe. Go ahead and turn your notifications on. But with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.